This is the final talk of Shri Nityananda Prabhu's Vyas Puj from the Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat by Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur. Nityananda Prabhu's natural propensity is to serve Gaura Chandra, and he is never distracted from this service, even for a moment. Just as Lakshman served Ramachandra constantly with his mind, body and heart. Similarly, Nityananda Prabhu constantly engages in Gaura Chandra's loving devotional service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord of every living entity. He is unlimited and the source of everything. Yet he enters the material realm and causes the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the material world. According to the Vedic of the Vedas, he is the absolute truth and the supreme controller. Yet he remains unaffected by the phenomena of material nature. In spite of his supreme lordship over everything, Anantadev, Shri Nityananda Prabhu, is eternally engaged in rendering loving devotional service to Shri Gaura Chandra. In every yuga and in every incarnation, his natural mood is to serve his Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna. As Lakshman, he became the younger brother of Lord Ramachandra and served him constantly. He neglected eating, drinking, sleeping, and other such activities to constantly serve the lotus feet of Sri Ramachandra. Yet still felt unable to satisfy his intense desire to serve. As Sri Balaram, he was the elder brother of Sri Krishna, yet he could not forsake his attitude of service to the Lord, which springs from the deepest core of his mercy very self. He is always in the mood of rendering loving devotional service to Sri Krishna. Such is the wonderful nature of Shri Nityananda Prabhu, Anantashesh. Only the most foolish rascals will see a difference between Shri Nityananda Prabhu and Shri Balaram. One who disrespects a devotee who is fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Shri Vishnu, commits a great offense at the lotus feet of the Lord Vishnu himself. Shri Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, is so elevated that Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva offer praise and worship to her. Yet she is naturally inclined to serve the lotus feet of Shri Vishnu Krishna. Lord Balaram, Anantashesh, is the omnipotent Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet his natural inclination is to serve the Supreme Lord. Therefore, Shri Gaura Chandra feels most satisfied when he can describe the glories and wonderful devotional attitude of Shri Nityananda Prabhu. It is the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Gaura Chandra, to be subservient to the devotional love of his devotees. Therefore, the Lord especially likes to glorify his own dearmost surrendered devotees. There is a special significance in hearing the Supreme Lord glorify his own devotees. The Lord and his devotees like to glorify each other, and in this way increase their attachment for one another. I have faithfully presented that which has been propounded in the Vedas and Puranas about the relationship between the Supreme Lord, Shri Vishnu, and his unalloyed devotees. Lord Nityananda has only one thought in his mind. Lord Chaitanya is my Lord in every respect, and I am his devoted servant. Whoever considers me to be the servant of my Lord and Master, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, becomes very dear to me and receives my shelter. For the pleasure of Sri Nityananda, I have described this pastime of his seeing the sixth arm form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nityananda always sees the transcendental pastimes of Chaitanya within his heart, and Chaitanya always exhibits his transcendental pastimes in Nityananda Prabhu's heart. Certainly the two brothers always see one another, yet still the specific services of Sri Nityananda Prabhu are always in accordance with the pastimes of the Lord's particular incarnation. Although Sri Nityananda is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he always serves Sri Gaurachandra. The Supreme Lord thus accepts service from himself. Who can understand such ecstatic pastimes? The Vedas and the Puranas have revealed these philosophical matters. The Vedic literature is actually a compilation of all the wonderful pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Moreover, it is the foremost objective of the Vedas to propagate the pastimes of the Lord. However, it is not possible to comprehend these spiritual pastimes without engaging in the pure devotional service of the Lord. In the material world, there are only a few who, by the mercy of Sri Gaurachandra, have realized the truth of the nectarian, unlimited, transcendental pastimes of Sri Krishna. The Vaishnava devotees of the Lord are eternally pure and realized souls. Sometimes there are differences of opinion amongst them which might appear like arguments. However, in fact, there is an amazing relationship between devotees. Foolish rascals who do not understand this exchange praise one Vaishnava and denounce the other. Such a mentality will lead to destruction of faith and knowledge. The scriptures state that when a foolish wretch worships the lotus feet of a Brahmana and then strikes him on the head, he will be sure to go to hell. Similarly, when somebody worships the deity of Shri Vishnu but disrespects or disregards Shri Vishnu within everyone's heart, he also goes to hell. What to speak of committing offense and violence to a Vaishnava devotee? If someone offends or touches even an ordinary entity, yet worships Shri Vishnu, the Lord of every living entity, then all his worship is worthless, and he suffers great pain. To worship Shri Vishnu on one hand and be ignorant about Shri Vishnu being the supersoul in everyone's heart on the other is like touching a Brahman's feet for blessings with one hand and then beating him on the head with the other. Such foolish persons do not know what is most beneficial for them. To criticize a Vaishnava devotee is 1,000 times more sinful than offending an ordinary living entity. The person who faithfully worships the deities but has no love and respect for the devotees also does not possess any compassion for the ignorant and fallen conditioned souls. He accepts one incarnation of the Supreme Lord and worships him while he rejects another. He treats Shri Krishna differently from Sri Ramachandra, seeing a difference between them. He does not show any respect or devotion for Balaram or Lord Shiva. Such persons are described in the scriptures as the lowest and the weakest of devotees. The Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, Chapter 2, Text 47 states, "A devotee who faithfully engages in the worship of the deity in the temple but does not behave properly towards other devotees or people in general is called a prakrita bhakta, an impure materialistic devotee, and is considered to be a kanishta adhikari in the lowest position." In the course of discussion, I have just briefly mentioned the symptoms of a neophyte devotee incidentally. Upon seeing the six-handed form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda was overwhelmed. Whoever hears this wonderful pastimes of Sri Nityananda is immediately released from the material bondage. When Nityananda Prabhu came out of his ecstatic trance, he began to cry profusely, tears flowing from his eyes like rivers. Lord Chaitanya then said to everyone, "The Vyaspuj worship has been completed. Now let the kirtan begin." Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.